Good evening. Good evening, Christopher.
Good evening, Agatha.
Let me welcome you and our guests who are slowly joining us to our webinar. Tonight, we decided to pick up for you a topic, the role of training within industry in quality management system. So we will talk about the idea, generally, the idea of the competences, the assurance of the competences, and how it is stick to the quality management system requirements according to ISO 9001 and ITF 16949 as it is automotive standard. And me and Christopher, we are originated in automotive industry. So before we will start, it would be really nice to learn a little bit who is with us. So we would be very happy to read about your names, your locations, your maybe area of experience and expertise in training within industry. So use the opportunity on the chat to write this information to us, and we would be very pleased to display some of you. Please bear in mind that we have a streaming shift like 10 seconds, and we may not directly respond to this, what is happening on the chat, especially if tonight we are present on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook. So again, take the moment to write who is with us.
So we're just starting to get some people. I can see, we've got around about 20 people so far, so they're just starting to join. So
okay, yes, slowly, yes, and also they're joining Facebook and YouTube as well. I can see. Okay, this topic, Christopher, I had the first feeling is connected to the Lean management, because while searching for additional information, someone can really reach the sources connected to the Lean management. Will you agree with this?
yeah, I agree. It's definitely key to standardization, lean management, and as we'll discuss further on about core competencies in the job as well. Yes.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So we have here tonight Andrew. Yes. Quality management. Yes. Okay. So slowly, people are joining and writing on the chat. Of course, we would like to start in a second. However, we see here there's Mark. Mark, I remember you from previous webinars, so it's really very nice that you came back tonight to us. And let's give you the opportunity to use the chat, but we will keep going because we value your time and we would like to start the topic for you. So let us maybe keep going. Okay. And tonight, as I said, we will talk about training within industry in connection to the quality management system. So at the very beginning, before we will start, let me briefly introduce you to the Qualitywise for those people who are for the first time maybe with us in the webinar. Qualitywise is the organization which aims to support the automotive industry in the quality awareness, let's say like that. And we are helping in the supply chain with expert knowledge by consulting, training, and auditing according to ISO 9001, ITF, or even VDE 6.3 audits. Tonight with me, I have the Christopher Scott. And before I will introduce myself, maybe Christopher, I will give you the voice. Tell us a few words about yourself.
Okay, thanks, Agatha. So my name is Christopher Scott, and I'm a quality assurance engineering expert. I've got over 14 years experience in automotive manufacturing. This is from tier 1 level, being a supplier all the way until the customer level as well. So my most senior position which I hold is head of supplier quality in an automotive OEM. So you can see on the page my experience. Some of my experience is obviously not extensive, but it gives you an overall viewpoint of what I've done and what I can offer.
Thank you, Christopher. So, my name is Agata Lewkowska. I'm the founder of Qualitywise, and also I'm working as quality management system expert for this industry. And I'm already 17 years in this quality management field. Yes. So, I really enjoy working in quality management. And that's why it's my pleasure tonight to meet with you and together with Christopher, conduct for you this webinar. Okay. Let me just emphasize that tonight, really, you have a great expert opportunity to hear a great expert, Christopher, who spent 1 month in Japan learning, training within industry. So, really, I hope you would enjoy this evening. Okay, at the very beginning, let's start with the fact that we have one of the foundation in quality management system, which is connected to the involvement of the people. And this involvement of the people is also one of the quality principle, yes, and we can associate this principle with the competent, empowered, and committed people at all levels in the organizations, which are the basis for increasing our ability to create and deliver values for our customer. Yes, so the foundation is quite strict, I must say. So let's keep going. And do you think in your organization, do you struggle with training the employees? Do you have the methodology, the approach, how to train the people? How do you track? How do you update trainings? Because when I'm auditing the competences, sometimes they can be a weak point, especially in the big organizations where there's a big rotation of the people, and you need to really assure from the quality management system perspective that all people who are influencing the results of quality management system are simply competent. So this might be an issue when we do not take proper care of this topic. Do you want to share with us something? Let's have a look on the chat. I don't see still some answers, but maybe this is connected to the fact that there is this time shift. Or
Yeah,
maybe
we still have answers from people from their location, but I'm sure it'll catch up. So
yeah, or maybe there is another situation that everyone in the organization feels that this topic is really well taken care of.
maybe I think from my experience, not from a 9001 perspective or an IETF, but from a supplier sourcing perspective, one of the major points that suppliers struggle to demonstrate is the evidence of training and that people are fully trained. You usually say, oh well, they've got a degree or something and that's enough, but that is not the case. So
Okay, so I don't see the answers. Either you don't want to share or you don't see the issues. Can be. So it's good. But generally, if you would, here we have a Christopher who will tell you the idea of training within industry. How this can be helpful.
Yeah, let me give you an introduction. So what is TWI? What does it stand for? So TWI means training within industry. And this is a proven method of hands-on training. So this is on-the-job training, learning, coaching for workers, team leaders, supervisors, and more. So this is all the way to the top of the company. The concept of TWI originated in the United States in 1940. More specifically, if you do your research, it's in the Department of Defense. So as we can see, different levels of the organization can be trained using this method. It's not just the people who do the blue collar working, the welding, the fabrication. It can be done at all levels. So moving to the next slide, Agata. So what are the competencies? So what do we believe the competencies are as we move to the next section?
Yes, actually, this is a quite basic question because tonight we are talking about the competencies. So, how we understand the competencies. This is our question to you. If you understand this notion, yes, because this has the implication on this what will be said tonight, yes, and also if we would understand why this is required from the quality management system perspective, yes. So, how do you understand the competencies?
Yeah, it would be interesting to see what the viewpoint is of some of our audience tonight. You know, in different companies we've seen, some people are from Goodyear. I'm sure there's some people who are from very high level tier 1, maybe OEM, even tier 2s. Be interested to know your opinion or what you believe the competencies are, and how would you tackle that question from an auditor perspective?
Yeah. The point is also that tonight we are talking about something which is, I would say, something soft. Yes, this is not engineering, pure engineering, fact-based and knowledge-based approach, to develop robust designs. But we are talking about something completely different. We picked up this topic because we don't want to neglect the importance of these competencies. And okay, let us then reveal what the competencies mean. When we are talking about the competencies, please remember that we have this ISO 9000 terminology standard, which can be helpful for speaking the same language, yes, and understand the things the same around the quality management. So please remember, when we are talking about the competencies, this is our ability to apply the knowledge and skills because we would like to achieve the desired results. And if we will combine this with other quality principles like process approach, we know that everything which is built upon the process must deliver intended results. So if we don't have competences, in fact, how we can say that our processes can really deliver intended results, because in those processes, people are working, yes? Okay, so if we understand what the competences mean, let me just start with the basics. This is ISO 9001. And here, please remember that we need to determine the competencies of the people in our quality management system. So as I said already on this example of the processes, you have to define those competencies and also ensure the people who are defined to be process participants must have those competencies, and these competencies, how they can be gained by education, training, or experience. And me as an auditor, I can tell you that when I'm doing audits, this is for me the solid foundation to prove if the competencies are met. Yes. Do not seek for the certificate after the training completion. No, not at all, because it's not only this. What's more, we also need to take the actions if we don't have then defined competences, yes. And of course, as in quality management system, we have to have evidences for almost everything. Here is the same, the documented information. Okay, this is ISO, but in ITF we have also supplemental. So here, quite fastly, I would just tell you that we need to have a documented process for identifying training needs. So again, the input for our process of the competences management. We need to include awareness, and we need to achieve competences, especially of the people who are working to achieve the conformity of products and process requirements. And so what's more, personnel performing specific assigned tasks shall be qualified as required with the particular attention to the customer satisfaction. Yes. And also we have sanctioned interpretation 22, which is connected more or less with cybersecurity. So we will not go further with this SE 22. However, so was it said that TWI is required by IATF? Is it required?
Yeah, so it's a question to the chat. Hopefully, someone can answer this and from their opinion. Do we believe that TWI is mandatory? You have to use it in IATF. It's not a trick question. We just like to understand people's understanding of the requirements, the clauses, and what you must do in terms of meeting the requirement.
Yes, you may have all of you different experiences while working with ITF, and actually, those of you who are more experienced, of course, they already know that this is very general standard. Yes, and we, as Patrick wrote, there is no such situation that that this is required. Jan also wrote no, yes, because this is just a specific example how this is implemented. Peter Jan also wrote no, yes, of course. Okay, let's going, Christopher, this is for you. Let us a little bit in connection of TWI, both on the job training.
Okay, so looking at the specific clause that we're looking at is competence, so on the job training. So straight away, that's a bit of a link to TWI. So it doesn't necessarily say TWI right now is required. So we've got a few people which say no, and we'll lead up to that point. So the organization shall provide on the job training, including customer specific requirements. So the customer may specify something very unique or niche to your industry or your company. Statutory and regulatory requirements must be captured. So this is the legal requirements of your product and process. Permanent agency staff and contractors really should be in bold, must be trained equally. So some companies believe that contractors aren't on the payroll directly. Agency staff aren't really a part of the team, so we don't really need to do any training with them. They're not really on the books, but clearly they need to be. And the statement in this box is TWI is not a mandatory requirement in IETF, but it is an effective way of ensuring your employees are fully trained in their daily work. Now, if you dig deeper into the principle of TWI, it transcends language and how it works. People can copy someone how they work, and they repeat over and over again until they understand the job. So that's the core principle. It's not a long dissertation of information. It's quite useful how people can understand very quickly how to do the job.
Okay, so where to start, Christopher?
So the area of work must be defined. So we're looking at the workshop or the office. In this case, it's some sort of semiconductor or PCB manufacturing. Personal protective equipment to be defined if applicable. So not every operation requires PPE, but it must be assessed and stated in the TWI into the training environment in the beginning. Key equipment at the workstation, like your tools, inspection lights, things like that, need to be defined also. And then finally, we're looking at the standard operating procedures are created with clear instructions. They're not ambiguous and they're easy to understand. So keep it simple is the acronym.
Exactly. Also, IETF is saying that when we are communicating some information during the training given for the people, as an example on the training, yes, we need to adjust the language to the level of our employees. Yes. Okay. How to teach the job, Christopher? You're the expert.
Sounds a bit cliche, but it's like anything when you see training courses which say there's a 7-step method, but in this case, there's a 3-step teaching method. And as you can see on the screen, I'll explain each one of them in some detail. So step 1 is to explain the job. So for example, if I'm going to assemble something, I need to explain to the person what they will do. Ask them if they've done something like this before, reassure them, and then show them, the equipment, the tools, the facilities, the PPE they must wear. Step 2 is to demonstrate the job as the trainer. So this is to do 1 cycle, ideally. It could be more until they grasp the task. But you're going to do an operation. You're going to show the operation or the part of the standard operating procedure that you're going to follow. And what are the critical things they must do to ensure quality, safety, and efficiency of the operation. And then between step 2 and step 3, the operator or the worker is going to do it over and over and over again. They need to obviously do the operation safely first. They need to achieve the quality. They might not achieve the efficiency straight away. And then eventually, with continued practice and reassurance and positive reinforcement and correction where necessary, they will achieve all of those requirements 100%, because the operation is simple for them to understand and to actually follow. So the idea is for you to check the worker at the end. You buy them off using something called job observation.
Okay. And this is a really very good question. Will TWI prevent human error? Do you remember, maybe some of you were participating in our webinar about root cause analysis and the human error? This was really interesting webinar, and we also stick to this. However, here we are talking about the human error in the context of the competencies, yes, training. So how do you think, if we'll apply trainings or like even the approach TWI, will it prevent human error itself?
Interesting to understand your thoughts, because obviously this is, as we've said earlier, it's not specified in IETF. It doesn't say you have to use TWI. We would like your honest opinion based on what you've seen so far. Do you believe TWI will prevent human error, in your own professional and personal opinion? It's not a trick question. It's definitely quite a direct question, to be honest.
Well, I would say yes and no, me personally. However, I'm quite curious if someone has such a dual response to this question, like me. Yes, there are. I mean, no, there are already some questions.
I think just
Some answers.
for some people, not just a no. If you can give like a reason, if that's possible.
Uh-huh.
If you can say, why do you believe it's no, or why do you believe it's yes? So
Very.
Ross, here we go. Yeah, Ross has give us an answer. So
Uh-huh.
no, there is always a risk
Bad
of human
day.
error. Someone can have a bad day. That's interesting.
Yes, hopefully not every day.
And then Andrew, so no, as every operator finds their own way of following the process. That is
Oh,
true.
this is
That's true.
really good comment. Any other ideas,
I think
maybe?
both comments so far are valid, without a doubt. Yes, we've all
Yes.
experienced this.
Uh-huh.
Some other people
Okay.
hopefully can get maybe. Oh, let's see.
And we have here, Mark, what I
Awesome.
noticed is impossible to prevent it, but showing the trainee why they should perform the task can be very crucial. Yes, also good point. Yeah.
Do you know TWI? Because that's very critical to TWI, the why. The why is really important.
Yeah. Mark, this is the question to you from Christopher. You can
Sounds like
write it.
sounds like someone has some training in TWI.
Yeah. Yes. Might be interesting topic.
Yeah, someone knows.
Yes.
Someone's been there. Good.
And Patrick, it's a question of occurrence, but human being is not that reliable. True. I think it can be the weakest point of the system. Yes. Okay. Do we keep going?
Let's move on. I mean, if you get some more questions, great. Or we can obviously
Uh,
highlight the points near the end. I
okay.
mean,
Yes, indirect. Okay. So, Christopher.
the answer is no. Unfortunately, no. I wish it was the silver bullet. Is the phrase to fix all problems. Unfortunately, it's not. Only error proofing can prevent the outflow of defects. The product or the process must be able to stop the issue. So if you go back to our webinar regarding error proofing, the only way to actually stop it is to use Poka-yoke or mistake-proof devices. But what I need to say is that training within industry is far more effective than the majority of other learning operations. If you give someone just a book or standard procedure and say, read that and do the job, that's not effective. So the point is, it is very effective, but there is more than just TWI that you need to do. Job observation is critical. Once the person is trained, you need to make sure that person still follows the procedures. They're still doing their work. We can't hire machines for everything. It's not feasible in some operations to not use humans. We have to use humans to do the job. And in a world where I believe in fairness, there's always going to be a combination of robotics and machinery, and humans are always going to be a part of that. So if you have a robust way of training people that they understand the job clearly and they're able to perform the task, if it's designed in such a way to perform the task, then there should be no reason that the person can't do the job correctly.
Okay. However, error proofing is, in its own definition, the most robust design, yes, which will prevent from defects. And this is also the foundation of the ITF. So let's remember about this because it's extremely crucial. Okay, Christopher, is it applying TWI only to Gemba?
So TWI can be used in all areas of the organization. So too many companies may have a slight level of TWI or on-the-job training, as IETF specifies, but they don't necessarily think about, well, what about engineers? Well, engineers have degrees, so they don't need to be trained. Well, that's not the case. There's other areas where on the shop floor, obviously, that's an obvious place to do on-the-job training. At quality inspection points, that's logical. Inspectors need to be trained, technicians need to be trained to the standards and the requirements of the business and the customer specific requirements. But crucially, as we move towards the next point, I could say, so as we got an inspection point, the office is really important. So all of that background support staff that support the production line, the indirect staff, they need to be trained and validated as well. We can't assume these people, just because they have a degree or they have some sort of level of education, does not mean they're able to do the job. They still need to do an element of on-the-job training. And again, TWI can help with that. It is very good at doing cyclic operations and non-cyclic standard operations.
Okay. So how do I ensure competency and compliance?
So as we move into this next diagram, we have a ratio between the three. If you have a clear standard operating procedure, which is not ambiguous, it ensures safety, quality, and efficiency, and it meets those requirements. You have effective training, like on-the-job training is the base level, but TWI is levels above that. There is a level above that as well, but we can talk about that in another webinar, so I'll keep that as a secret for now. and something called job observation. So again, I think in another webinar, we'll discuss job observation, because each one of these areas, we've touched TWI, which is effective training method. Clear SOP writing, believe it or not, is difficult to do and to be very concise. And job observation is its own thing as well. So each one of them are very important to ensure competency and compliance, as you'll see, is the center point. So Agatha, if you just show the next point.
Yeah.
So right in the middle, the sweet spot between these three circles, that's where you want to be. And the only way you can achieve that is if you have these three elements.
Okay, then it's in full. Okay. Let me just, after hearing all of this about TWI, come back to another important QMS requirement, ISO 9001. So we are talking now about the basics, extremely basics. Awareness. Yes. And here, guys, employees are aware of their contribution, of the effectiveness of the quality management system, including the benefits of improved performance. So it's really close to this, how it was on the job training with the requirements, yes, and also the results of the QMS, yes, like we defined what are the competencies, yes, to assure the knowledge and the ability to use it for enhancing the QMS results, yes, the results, generally results, competencies are saying. And here it's coming back to us, yes. What's more, the ITF is saying on the job training must be also connected to the elements of awareness. So here again, this is coming back to us. And what's more, we have ITF supplemental, yeah. Employees are aware of, and we have 4 elements what we have to be aware of. Impact on product quality, yes. So how TWI is built upon this requirement, Christopher?
So if the product quality is defined, what you must do to ensure the quality elements, if you don't use a screwing operation correctly or use the right tools, it will say the impact on the actual product itself. So one of the key aspects is you take all of these requirements from IATF and 9001 or whatever quality management system or regulation you must comply with, and you put that into the standard operation, and you teach the operator the importance, the why.
Okay, another, the importance of their activity in achieving, maintaining, and improving quality. So again, the assurance of the results. And again, I will stick to the process approach. Everyone in the organization is allocated to some process, yes, because in process approach we are completely not talking about the departments, yes, because these are the silos. The management science keep going in progressing the notion and the knowledge. So now we are definitely talking only about the processes. So guys, with these processes, everyone has their own place. Even if we are in a few departments can build one process. And we are talking about the results of the process. I'm not interested in the results of the department, yes. However, we know that the goals in ISO 9001 are also established for the specific persons, yes, working in the QMS. Customer requirements. That is extremely important, yes. And we're not only talking about customer-specific requirements, but wider perspective here. All customer requirements, not only connected to ITF, and the risks for the customer with non-conforming product. So again, this is what also Christopher said about the impact on product quality. Yes. And at the end, we need to maintain documented information, yes, that demonstrates this awareness. Yeah. So during the audit, I know in ITF audits, there are a lot of difficult requirements, long requirements, which needs to be proven. And sometimes the awareness is not explicitly audited. However, believe me or not, always auditor would have the impression about the awareness. Yes, it because auditor will always talk with anyone from any process, and will have this impression of the awareness. So please assure the competencies in your QMS. Okay. Did you enjoy this webinar? Because tonight, actually, this is all what we prepared for you to help you with understanding how the competences are really important for QMS, yes, assurance of the results. And we could even go further with the results of QMS. The leadership is important, is responsible, yes. So in other words, everything from the low level perspective is coming to the high level perspective, like top management. It's not only that we are talking about the competences, and the competences are connected to assure the competences that HR is in charge of, defining the process for assuring the competences. No, there might be something more. So write us on the chat if you need still some answers for some questions. I already picked up some, which I would like to display for you and also discuss, because they're interesting questions. However, still, we are for you, and you can ask us what is your concern regarding TWI, or even generally QMS. Okay, so at the end, while we are waiting for the some questions, let me just finalize this webinar with this key principle. Yes, let's remember about this key principle: involvement of the people. If we assure the competent and empowered and committed people, we also assure the we're enhancing actually the increasing of the results and creating a value as the outcome of our organization for our customer. Yes. Okay. Let me come back to some nice comments and questions we have here. Oh, Patrick wrote quite big one. My biggest concern and takeaway I search is that we see constant degradation of effectiveness of different training techniques. We send training materials by email so that people can learn at their convenience, and they do not do it. We give materials printed, and they do not take them even to read. We make them sign after delivering training, and they, at some cases, signing without really understanding what they were trained just to get rid of us. Do you have some observations in this generation? Okay, this is quite serious problem in many organizations, and it's really connected to some people, how they behave when they need to be trained. But it seems so that Patrick, you have a general problem with this. When I was managing QMS, and it was a big organization, it was really difficult, to organize really face-to-face sessions. And honestly, I was sending the information and requesting the confirmation, yes, by voting, if this was by email, or coming back to me to sign on the list. However, honestly, person in charge of QMS or anyone in the organization is really obliged to, unfortunately, do a kindergarten and go for signatures or confirmation, because this is in the interest of the whole organization when auditor will come. Yes. The another thing is, what I would say is the application of this knowledge. Yes, what people should read. Maybe Christopher, you have some advices here.
Yeah, I think it's a really valid point, and I find that as a customer, not just an auditor. So if I separate the fact of the lead auditor in 9001 ITF, that side of it, and then as a customer, if I dig deep enough and I say, show me the operator and show me their training, and if you produce just a document with a signature, I will then deliberately go to your operator and I will ask them what are the critical points of that operation. And if they can't tell me what they are, and there are some critical points, you would get a non-conformance straight away. So how do you address this? Okay. It's like most organizations, we all know that everyone is responsible for safety. That's step one, right? So in Qualitywise, I'm responsible for my safety and Agata's, and vice versa. If we do something which is unsafe, we have to challenge each other and make sure we don't have that problem. Now, stage two is quality assurance. Quality is everyone's responsibility. It doesn't matter what level you're at in the organization. Everyone is responsible for that. Not just the QMS coordinator, not just the quality manager, not just the quality engineer, not just the quality inspector. You know where I'm going with this. Not the people with the name quality first is the only people responsible for quality. So the best thing about TWI, it is on-the-job training. It's like how do babies learn? They watch, their parents, they watch them, they copy, and it's the same thing. And it's not to say someone's intelligence. That's how we copy. That's how we learn. Some people are really good at learning visually, so they can read a document of 10,000 words and they can memorize it, and that's a very small percentage of people. Some people can learn by talking. So as we're talking now, you can pick up exactly what I say, and you can just do the job. Again, very, very rare. And the next stage to that is by doing, showing, copying, repeating. How do most people learn today in today's society? They go on YouTube, they watch a video, and they can do, they can make CAD very quickly, or they can learn how to 3D print, and they can do these things very quickly because of very simple videos that they can copy. That's typically how people learn. So I would say that, to your point, that methodology, that way of trying to confirm will never work. All you're doing is you're ticking boxes. You're getting people just to sign a document they don't agree to, and it doesn't really test the competency of the person. And the key word is competency. If I was to go and check those people you've sent that email to, and they've signed it, I would say, do you understand what you've read? And please demonstrate to me what you've read. That's the difference. That is the difference of job observation. And it sounds like some companies that maybe you've worked with or work for don't do on job observation. They're not confirming people's ability to actually understand the information. If that makes sense.
Yes. Okay. What else do we have? Patrick also commented to this, what we said. We see it in many different organizations. Somehow people do not feeling that sense of importance with delivered training, sense of importance. Oh, well, it's really, I think, unheard in everyone's own thinking why they are not feeling the sense of importance. However, in Qualitywise, we are sharing a lot of knowledge with you, like these webinars or even articles we are writing, free courses during the summer, and so on and so on. However, also I can confirm that if the knowledge is given for free, honestly, people are not that much, taking proper care of doing this. If they don't value this, I don't know for the organizations how you can solve this, but honestly, people who are paying for the knowledge are more seriously taking this knowledge with themselves. This is my observation generally. However, we will keep going with sharing our knowledge for free because this is really something what we really feel as our goal and aim actually of this what we are doing. Okay, what else do we have? Because it seems so that we have also some new comments. Like let me display. Okay, Alejandro, Agata, remote training in Mexico is not working. How do we revert this? Should we go back to face-to-face training? Oh, it's maybe difficult to answer because if I would do the fastest training for Mexico, I would do online training. And actually, I don't have this a situation that someone really is not interested in online trainings. However, that's why I may not understand exactly what is what what you're struggling. However, please bear in mind that trainings does not have to be do not have to be boring. Yes, there are a lot of methods for making the training attractive. Yes, and those who are coming for Qualitywise training, then they can learn a little bit more about this, what I'm thinking right now. Okay, we have Jan. I have a different experience. It's make a lot of time, but trainer or somebody who delivering a message must create environment like sitting on bar. There are phases, but I always influenced people in a way to remember why they are doing and what is the cost if they will not follow it. Oh, this is good approach. Yes, to show the bad sides of this, what can happen. Yes, and actually we see that it's easy to also stick to the requirements in QMS according to ISO or even ITF 16949 to present, to demonstrate the negative impact. Yes. What else? Oh, Patrick.
I think just on that point as well with Jan, the in a different way of interpreting the word, not necessarily a bar, but that would be great if we could do that. Having that reassurance, that positive engagement with the person you're trying to train, explaining that you're not just a scary trainer or a supervisor or a manager, you're actually there to help them. That's the first stage. And the first step, as I mentioned, the 3-step method is explain the operation. In that is about that, how do you engage the person? How do you get them on board and to be really paying attention to the operation? And you say cost, but the why must you do this step? If you don't do it, what will it do? So, there's a risk to safety, there's a risk to quality, or there's a risk to the efficiency. And if you can show that, if you can say, if you don't do step A, this is what happens. If you don't do step B, this is what happens. It's not always down to cost. Sometimes in the end, there is a cost risk. But in other cases, it's just down to quality, purely that, you'll have a bad part and it's wasting time. So, but the why, more than anything, the why is the most important, so that the person doing the job understands the risk to them and the risk to others.
Let me show you one comment from Andrew when we were talking about error proofing. Andrew commented this. I overmissed this. However, not every OEM or customer will pay for error proofing. It can be a constant battle against cost and design for manufacturing for product. Okay, Andrew, the fact is that the foundation for ITF, because we're talking about the required error proofing by ITF, is the fact that ITF aim is to reduce wastes in the supply chain and variation in the supply chain. Error proofing is one of the fundament when we are doing designing, yes, and designing on the process. Let me explicitly remind you that the customer, even if is doing designing, we can exclude of the product. We can exclude product from our QMS. However, for the process, we still are in charge to design this. And let me again emphasize that in requirements, even for the for the inputs and the outputs from the processes of designing and developing, is that we need to also design error proofing. Yeah, so this is again something which doesn't explicitly has to be agreed with the customer, that customer will pay for this error proofing. It has to be present, because otherwise you will not meet the requirements. When you are signing the agreement with the customer, you agreed that you will be supplying, and probably in the databases you need to put the validity of your ITF certification. And believe me, ITF will definitely verify if you have error proofing application, yes, in your processes. That's why for me it's really logical, and it's I'm not treating it as something negative that customer is not paying, because
I can probably answer this from an OEM perspective. So my vast majority of my career has been in OEM at different levels. And in this case, in my position from a sourcing perspective, so obviously I'm not only a part of Qualitywise, I'm a head of supply quality in another organization. And when I'm selecting suppliers and you sign a contract, and that contract says you will meet the specification, it doesn't say you will meet the specification 1% of the time or 10% of the time. It's your responsibility as the supplier to meet the contract. And That is the specification. How you do that is up to you. Obviously, if you have IATF, then you need to meet the IATF requirement plus the customer requirement. But ultimately, the customer is paying for a product which is to specification. Now, there's going to be concerns. There's going to be outflow of defects. Obviously, we'd like to have a zero defect culture and mindset. That's not always practical. But in reality, that is the supplier's responsibility to understand the risks of their process, use things like FMEA to understand probability and what happens if it's no good. And then based on that, they can identify areas of the process or the product which needs to be error-proofed. Not everything on the product needs to be error-proofed. Not every feature, every component, every assembly. It all depends on that risk analysis and probability of the failure.
Okay. Another comment from Maria Jose. It is not just giving a training. After it, we need to have the follow-up by supervision, internal audits, and evaluate the effectiveness of the training. Exactly, because this is also required by the ISO 9001 in 7.2. So true. Such follow-up can be after some time, like, I don't know, let's say 3 months. We are checking if really the training was effective by the performance, for instance, of such person who is working after the training. Yes. And
we have an expert from Nissan. This is great. So, Michael.
We need to ensure each operator understands the consequences of delivering poor quality to their customer and downstream. Yes, this is very good comment and very obvious behavior, how we should do it. Christopher, did you see maybe some additional comments which I did not display?
No, I think the last main relevant one. I mean, there's some further comments about the difference between face-to-face and remote. I think it all depends on what you're trying to train someone. So if it's e-learning, things about policies, procedures, cybersecurity, ESG compliance, you don't necessarily need to do that face-to-face. That can be done through e-learning. But it all depends. It all depends on what you're trying to train someone. If that's a non-standard operation, so that's something which you know once you've been trained in that, what you must comply with, and you don't half the time think, oh, I'm going to take a bribe or I'm not. Obviously, you need to comply. That's pretty straightforward. It's when you're doing cyclic operations, you're assembling and you're building 300 parts, or you're welding, or you're cutting. Those operations or those are strict assemblies which are difficult to do. You need to break down that operation into several individual tasks. And that is where the standard operation comes in. Then the training with industry, then the job observation, which is about the supervision, the internal audits, the effectiveness of the training. So TWI, it can be used in everything, but it specializes mainly in cyclic operations, things that you do over and over and over again. That's the difference, I think.
Yes, and there was a question also here. To close the NC in audit, some organizations has followed a training attendance sheet without card out the training. No, please. Also, auditors close the NC. Your views, please. It's so I hope this is so virtual situation that we didn't need to comment this. Please, this is coming back to you.
I wish it was. I wish it was. So and I'm going to be honest. There's times when I went to a supplier. The supplier has IATF. They've gave me the certificate in multiple companies that I've worked for, and they say, "Oh, we've got IATF. Everything's fine. Okay, great." And then you say, "Show me your non-conformances." Fine. Okay, they're closed. And then you go on the shop floor and you do similar questions, very similar questions to IATF as an audit. And you go, there's a non-conformance. And they go, well, we've got IATF. I need to stress the point. When you get your IATF or your 9001 or whatever QMS accreditation and certification for your system, that is a snapshot of how you performed at that point in time. It's your responsibility as a supplier or organization to ensure compliance of that system. So I could walk away the following day and everything was fine when I was there as the customer. The next day, everything can go wrong and everything falls to pieces. So that can be found quite quickly and quite easily. And it's down to the quality auditing team, the shop floor. Everyone is responsible for quality to ensure compliance of that system.
And maybe the last, because we're slowly approaching 9 p.m. here, at least in Central Europe. Alejandra is still insisting. Christopher, this will be for you.
So yeah, back to the point. I think both remote and face-to-face is effective. I work with remote teams that are, based globally. Sometimes it's not practical to, travel to North America or to China, depending on workload, depending on timing. I think it all depends on that person's core-based skill first. There's the level of on-the-job training they would have done. And based on their test of understanding, you need to understand where they are as what depending on what the topic is. I think face-to-face training is the best method. Training with industry really focuses on face-to-face training. I think there is a way of doing it through remote, but there's nothing better than being hands-on, showing someone, giving them opportunity to pick up the tools together and show them what's important and what's not important. I don't think fully remote is the solution. It depends on what the training is, as I said earlier. If the training is to do with compliance, anti-corruption, bribery, ESG, all those sort of things, it can be done through e-learning. But once you've done your e-learning, it's important for the supervisor or the manager or whoever to ensure that you comply with that training. So I can do my one-off training in my organization, but it's up to my supervisor to make sure that I still comply on a day-to-day basis. Just because you do that one-off training doesn't mean I'm doing it every day. So they need to obviously do on-the-spot checks, random checks, job observation. They need to make sure that I'm still complying with some of that remote training as well.
Okay, good. Okay, I don't see maybe more questions or comments. I was trying to display all of them, what you were writing, all the concerns. So if there is no more questions, well, Christopher, can you summarize?
Yeah. So in summary, training with industry is an effective way of ensuring that your operators, your staff, your team leaders are trained to an effective level. It's a way of clearly explaining the operation using something called a standard operating procedure, which explains the main steps, key points, and reasons for why you need to do each operation at each stage. It also ensures that it links into something called job observation, which is the buy-off stage, which means that operator has been approved to then do the job on their own without any supervision. Further to that, there's something which complements that, which is obviously job observation in 6 months, 3 months, depends on when you want to do the interval. And what you'll find is a lot of suppliers will say root cause for failure is human error, and the only countermeasure is training. Unfortunately, training is not the only way. Something like TWI will help. Of course, it will help towards that goal, but error proofing is the only way to completely eliminate a problem.
Okay, so at the end, we just wanted to mention to you, if you need more knowledge about this training within industry, we have in Qualitywise real subject matter expert, Christopher, in person tonight. And if you would be interested in dedicated training for your organization, just get in touch with us and we'll support you. Actually, Christopher, the most will support you. As our subject matter expert. Okay, so thank you very much for being tonight with us, and hope you enjoyed the topic. Maybe quite easy or quite difficult for some organizations, however, important for the quality assurance, yes, awareness. So thank you very much. We wish you nice evening or even afternoon in Mexico, especially, yes, and hope to see you during the other webinars. Please follow Qualitywise for more details about the future topics and future webinars. Thank you.
Thank you.